This lesson is going to be about the first guitar chord I think you should learn, but not just the chord itself, how to get it to sound good, and all the different factors that might cause it to sound bad. So you need to know which fret you're on, where to position your finger relative to the fret, how to angle your fingers, how to arch your fingers appropriately, how to space your fingers out, and how to set this all up for success. Because when you put the chord down in the context of a song, it all happens very fast. But if you can flash back to being a beginner, or maybe you are a beginner, there's a lot of uncomfortable aspects to this, and a lot of little culprits that can cause the notes to not ring out properly. So we're going to start out on fret 2 with the first finger here, pressing down on the third string. Okay, now notice the finger is right by the fret, it's arched properly, and I'm also on the very tip of my fingers. And that's fret 2, remember. 1, 2. Now here's my second finger, all the way towards the floor, and it's got a string in between it. You can see between the two fingers there's a string in between, and that's my second finger on the second fret on the thinnest string. Okay, so that's the second note you need to think about, and you want to position it just like this. Now next we have the ring finger here on the third fret on the second string, so that finger needs to be a distance away from the other two, and it's still pushing down right by the fret, right behind it. It's still arched, and you notice there's a space here. There's a space between the inside of my palm and the guitar neck, because the guitar is angled in such a way to where you leave some space and you're letting everything ring clearly. Okay, now you notice on the thumbnail I took, I had my thumb on the back of the neck. And that's kind of an advanced thing. You don't think about it after a while. And you might be very comfortable going just like this with the thumb on the back of the neck if you're a pure beginner. Okay? So I would recommend, in fact, even trying it out that way. So remember, you have first finger, finger 1, finger 2, and finger 3. Now there's certain things you should do when working out any chord. The first thing is to play the individual notes. So for this chord, D, by the way, we're only going to play 4 strings. So if you are advanced or you're working on it, you can put the thumb over the back of the neck. Start with string 4. So that's a string with no fingers on it, and you want that to ring clearly. In other words, it's played open. So what could cause that to go bad? Outside of anything going on with the right hand, what would cause that to go bad would be this first finger, finger 1, pressing up against the 4th string. So it needs to be kind of right in the center of the string, so to speak, even though your hand's at an angle and on the very tips. So that would take care of that. Okay, now we have our first finger on the 3rd string. What would be the culprit of that? Either not being close enough to the fret or not pressing hard enough. Because for that one, you can't logically be directly on top of the fret, and that's another thing to think about. When you play guitar, you're not directly on top of the fret. Always be conscious of that. Now we have the 2nd string. That's played by the ring finger on the 3rd fret. Again, right behind the fret, arched. Not letting other fingers interfere with what we're trying to do. And this is probably the hardest note of all. Okay, that's the 2nd fret on the skinny string, or the thinnest string, in other words. So how do you test this out to see what you can do when you're ready to practice? Well, first you would pick out the individual notes like you would do with any chord to see if there's any problem areas. If you're wearing long sleeves like I am, you might like to roll up your sleeve. Okay. Take a look at this hand, make sure it looks okay. Release the tension at first to give your hand a little rest and then push down because it is tiresome at first. Pick out. Okay, everything's clear. Nothing's being muted by anything that you don't want. Now, how do you really put it to the test? Try a little strum. Because if you get that, you're doing okay. So practice that. Practice the strum and pick out. Strum. Again, with this D chord, you're strumming from string 4. If you don't have the thumb over the back of the neck, be very conscious that you're only playing strings 4, 3, 2, 1. Or this chord, that'll be your challenge. Okay, so it's time for you now to practice this, to work this out, and master these fundamental tips before moving on to a new chord. I realize I've done many chord tutorials, but I wanted to go in depth with this one and show you it's not just about put your finger here, put your finger there. There's many ways where these fundamentals can go wrong. The more you know about it, the more success you'll have.